Well, I can say that I filed FOIA requests electronically. They went unanswered. And so I sent it hard copy through the mail with a return request receipt. They refused to pick it up at the post office, right? Because I have a tracker. I can see it when it arrived. They refused to do it. So then I drove there, hand delivered, and they refused to stamp it. Well, there's a time stamp so you can show that when they actually got it. So I filed open records request. I complained to the Attorney General's office. Finally, there's an attorney who made it all happen. So, it's a battle.
You don't want to name drop?
And there was a sheriff's department. I filed records with them, requests with them, and their responses were bare minimum that they could get by with, which never answered any of my questions. So y'all might have more power than I do, but they don't. But eventually, a city attorney looked at it and just told them, look, this is public information. We got to give it to them. And so they gave me 3 years worth of records. I asked for 10. Then I had to file another complaint with the Attorney General's office saying, hey, this is disingenuous. They should have 10 years of records easily on this. The banks require 7 years minimum. The Attorney General office sent them a demand letter saying, hey, man, you got to respond to them. Then they let me come back and see their records, and their records were missing and gaps in it. And
that's why they didn't want you to have them.
It could be. It could be.
A mess. What, each of you, what's the best public records reporting you've done this year? And what were the big obstacles to getting there? Scott, we'll start with you. Is that the story you're talking about? And what was the story?
I filed, I had 3 city council people came in and said, listen, Mr. Willie, we haven't seen the financial reports and records in months, if not years. I said, what are you talking about? They go, like credit card statements, bank account statements. We don't get to see them. I said, well, you're a city council. What are you talking about? And they said, the mayor won't let us see them. I said, well, I'll file an open records request and see if I can see them. And so I did. The very next day, I started filing and nothing happened. It took me about a month to finally get the records. I think it was about a month, maybe a month and a week or two to finally come in. And so I said, well, let's see. Maybe there's a reason they didn't want anyone to see these records. And I started going through them, and there was, 3 years worth. So I just read them. Yeah, they're eating out. They're doing this. It didn't seem like much. And then I saw a specific purchase. I said, wait a second. And I flipped back through all these months, and they'd eaten at the same place. And then I flipped back, and I realized there was a trend. So then I said, I need to put this in some sort of order so you can grasp it. So I typed out line by line every time they used credit cards by the date. So you could see how many times, sometimes they ate 3 times a day. Sometimes one was eaten on this credit card and other ones were eaten on this credit card. They were shopping. They were just, and once you put it in order, and I thought, you know what? People need to see this list. They need to see this list to see what I'm seeing, and they can draw their own conclusions. So we printed the lists, and they were extensive, and it took me weeks to type them up and to add them up to make sure they all added up. And then I had a secretary add it up, and it didn't work out. So I re-added it. It didn't work out a second time. She added it. It took us about a month to make sure the numbers were good, right? 3 times they had to, we agreed they would come out 3 times, the same numbers on each of ours, and then we would do it. And finally, got that in the paper. Now, it was like 400 inches story. And my newspaper has a rule of a 10-inch story. So what I did was I waited till my bosses left for the weekend. And on Friday, I put the story in the paper. I went home. I boxed up everything because I knew I was going to be moving. And come Monday morning, my president was going, well, it read good. So.
Congratulations.
But it had its intended results. Everybody read it. I was swamped with phone calls and emails and text messages. And I was amazed at the number of mayors in our county who called me and said, hey, let me tell you about this guy. Let me tell you what he's done. Let me tell you, right? And so it was just stunning. Business people calling me saying, you can't accept their checks. They bounce. Everything bounces, And so it really had, people saw those lists and they were outraged. They were so angry. And even to this day, they're going, when will charges be filed? And I said, well, I don't know that a crime was committed, although the district attorney said they were looking into it. So, but it had, those lists they were eye-opening. Everything. They were eating out all the time. I mean, these are legitimate business expenses. We were taking out people who were doing business with the city. Yeah, $99 at Dairy Queen. You're right. So that was what, 6 meals? That's
hard to spend $99.
Yeah, $80 at Subway. Just on Sundays, they were treating business people out on Sundays, holidays, weekends. They were buying so much. The cities only got 320 people. It's only literally 1 square mile. So you can stand at the entrance and you can see and you know what? They were spending thousands and thousands of dollars on gasoline, right? Even though they had a contract with the county to get cheap gas at the county depot. And then so we requested those reports. And sure enough, you can see all this long list of all the gas expenses they got for their 1 mile of mowing, I guess. And yet, at the same time they were buying this gas, they were buying gas at gas stations, just $100 and $200 for the gas at a time. So, that was pretty eye-opening. Shopping online, shopping for groceries, going to grocery stores, spending $400. Now, I'm sure that was a legitimate business expense for something. I don't know. I know they have an annual Juneteenth festival, and it's really nice, and they cook food and everything. And I counted heads because that's what we do. We count heads when we go places. And I counted about 54 people, and they spent like $10,000 on brisket. Wow. So I'm just thinking, maybe, I don't know. Wow. They spent a lot of money. I don't know. I say 10, I don't know. It was a lot of money on brisket. And I went to the local butcher shop and asked them, hey, how much brisket do people eat? And he said, well, you can give them like a half a pound per person. So I was looking at that going, holy smokes. But there was a lot of money spent.
Wow.
These were the council members?
No. Yeah. The council people are the ones that complained. They came and said, we didn't get to see these. And so I invited the council members, I invited the bookkeeper to my office and said, come look at this. And they went through the reports, reading through them. Oh my gosh. And I asked them, is this legit? Can you guys, do they have permission? The mayor and the city secretaries have permission to do this? And no, they don't have permission to spend that money. They get paychecks. I said, well, maybe they're feeding the staff. They do have a staff there. They have a staff as the mayor, a city secretary, and 2 maintenance people, because it's only 1 square mile. So these 2 guys, right? That's it. So on staff of 4, apparently they're feeding them every meal, or taking them out to dinners on weekends. And
I just thought my story was interesting. It contains neither brisket nor Dairy Queen.
No more examples needed.
Kendleton, a little town called Kendleton, Texas. And let me tell you about Kendleton. You already know about Kendleton. It used to be a speed trap. And the police officers there would pull you over and then write you a ticket and then keep the money for themselves. They went to prison for it. They went to prison for this, right? Right. So it was. Oof. So I knew when I went over there, I said, I'm in a lot of trouble here.
Lexi, what's your best public records?
Wow, I don't know how you follow that.